Tonight, I'm joined by Professor Eddie Glaude Jr. He has been on the show before. We spoke at great length about his book, Democracy in Black. But tonight, we're talking a little bit more in depth about the election 2016. We'll be talking about his debate on Democracy Now! With Michael Eric Dyson. And then I want to ask him, we'll talk a little bit about the lesser of two evilism between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. But before we go into all of that, I want to welcome him to the show. Professor Glaude, how are you today? And thank you so much for joining us.
I'm doing well. It's a pleasure to be with you, Doc.
Thank you. It's a pleasure having you here. My audience is excited about the conversation. They've been talking about this interview, this debate, and it was a friendly debate. First of all, the conversation that you had with Michael Eric Dyson last week in Philly, I'm upset because I was in Philly and I didn't get a chance to see or meet either one of you in person, but I'm really ecstatic because it was such a robust conversation in such a short period of time. And you guys covered some very important topics. And I think that you ran into some of the conundrums is the only word I could think of that I'm personally running into. So one, thank you for that conversation, but then two, thank you for coming here to talk about it a little more. And we can just jump right into it. I want to play a small clip of the conversation that you had with Michael Eric Dyson, and we'll use that as a primer for this conversation.
Okay.
Or democracy.
What I'm concerned about, Mike, is what you know as well as I do, is that political scientists have said that black folk are a captured electorate. That is to say, the Republican Party doesn't have to care about what we do, and the Democratic Party every 6 years come into our communities
I'm with you on
and
that.
Try to herd us to the polls like we're cattle chewing cud.
I'm with you on that.
And then they have no obligation to deliver on policy.
But
so she shows up in, hold up. She shows up in a church.
Right.
They come to churches. They
Right.
come into our communities. And when we talk about policy, how are you addressing the legacy of
But I'm with you on that.
So but if you're with me on that,
Right.
How is it then that a Democratic candidate can come into our community, come into this moment where all of this suffering, where you and I have laid it out in both of our books, all this suffering is engulfing our communities. When we look at the back of Barack Obama's head, what's going to be behind it are the ruins of black communities, the ruins of the most vulnerable in this country. And then we get business as usual, rebranded. And only because we're afraid of Donald Trump and not understanding our power as the demo.
All right. So that was we picked it up in the middle of the conversation, and you were bringing some serious truth and a rhetorical heat as well as just philosophical truth. I want to ask you in general about the premise that you guys were arguing about, this tension between facing a person like Donald Trump and facing a political party, the corporate wing of the Democratic Party, that has done a disservice to the black community. Where is that threshold for you? Where do you fall in that tension?
Well, as I argued in the conversation with Mike, is that we need to do two things simultaneously. We have to keep Donald Trump out of the White House, and we have to announce that business as usual is unacceptable. And that's hard to do. The fears around Donald Trump are genuine, and they make sense to me. But we can't vote from a place of fear. And so part of what I think we have to do is we have to keep Donald Trump out of the White House, but we also have to continue the necessary work of undermining the neoliberal wing of the Democratic Party, undermining the economic philosophy of neoliberalism that has in so many ways eviscerated the working class in this country, has deepened the misery of the most vulnerable and the most marginal, which disproportionately impact black and brown communities. And what I find strange, actually, what I find almost deeply hypocritical is a refusal to understand how Hillary Clinton has played a central role, right, in the corporate takeover of the Democratic Party, how her policies have economic philosophy in particular, how her economic philosophy has in so many ways harmed and devastated our communities. And so I'm really skeptical of all of these black surrogates who think that she's somehow a savior. And so I kept pushing Mike back. And so what I heard by the end of the conversation is that Hillary Clinton is a stopgap measure for him. He doesn't want Donald Trump in office. And I believe that we can't vote from a position of fear, that we have to vote from a position of power.